Hello, it's me, and I've got a couple of really interesting unboxings coming up. We're going to start off with this one. This one comes from a guy by the name of Nathan Wilson. He is kind of a new discovery for me when it comes to being a modder, and he comes up with some really creative and brilliant designs, which seems simple in the way that he describes how to do it, but is actually really difficult if you ever tried it yourself. So I'm very interested to see some of his work and actually try it out myself. So let's see what we've got. Okay, so let's see what we have here. So it looks like a Gigaminx, but just what happened to it? There's been some obvious modifications to it. Now, I really enjoy cuboid puzzles, and I've been pretty fascinated by the notion of having Megaminx cuboid type derivatives. So this is a Gigamoid. So it's a Gigaminx that has been modified almost beyond recognition and has a cuboid look to it. First off, the movement is very good just even as a Gigaminx. But you can see that the top part has been shaved down, and this part here has been shaved down. So the top and the bottom, sandwiched in between, is a normal Gigaminx. So this is an interesting, almost like an iCube type process. So we'll see what kind of challenges this has to offer. So I don't know, should I just scramble it now and see what we've got? But this is going to be just like an iCube. That's how I discovered J.R. Cube's stuff. He does a lot of iCube type puzzles, but this is a Gigamoid, and it's very smooth moving, and I've always been curious about how I would go about solving dodecahedral type cuboid, so to speak, the Gigamoid. Anyway, I feel like I should show you more of the turning here, which is really excellent, very smooth. Wow. So let's see, this represents kind of a potentially new challenge here. This turns just fine. You can move it with one finger. And I always look at mods to see just how professional looking it is. You can see some, quote, Olsing effect, but it's pretty symmetric, so that looks pretty good. Top and bottom do okay. So I think the scramble of this is going to be, well, if a Gigaminx is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then I guess this is the equivalent to a 3 by 3 by 5, perhaps? Or 3 by 5 by 5. Well, who knows? So some more turns over here. So this is shape-shifting, moving in all directions, and you see very quickly we may find ourselves scrambled when I don't really want to scramble it as of yet. So I'm going to just admire it, because this may be the last time I see it in this form for quite some time. Here are these two. Now let's do like a exchange between pieces here. Wow, okay. Alright, so my hope is I'm going to see a lot more from Nathan, because right now I'm very impressed with the build of this. A very solid build. So you can see the how this is cut down and filled in by epoxy, so it looks very professionally done. Alright, good job, Nathan. I'm going to go ahead and get this scrambled at some point, come back with possibly a solution, if I can figure it out. So let's look at the Gigamoid rather, compared to the Gigaminx, just in terms of motion. So this is the MF8 version, which I always thought was very good motion. A little bit stiff, but that's just because I haven't really lubricated it much. As you can see, this one is incredibly smooth. You can even move it with one finger with this layer and with this layer as well. So I find that the movement is even better than the mass-produced right out of the box, which means that Nathan probably did some, maybe some lubricating of it. So I think the idea, what caught my attention was just how brilliant the notion of having like a cuboid version of a dodecahedron. Now, in terms of the solve strategy, I'm not sure if I'm going to do this like a floppy type Gigamoid, or if it's going to be more like an iCube puzzle. So what's the best way of looking at this? So we're 5 across here, so you could say that the Gigaminx is like a 5 by 5 if a Megaminx is like a 3 by 3, just with dodecahedron form. So do I use similar solve strategy as I would to the floppy equivalent to a Gigamoid? Could I look at this as something like a 5 by 5 by 3, where each one we've got, we're 5 across here, and maybe somehow we're like 3 here. I don't know if I can really look at it like this, where I come up here and you can see shape shifting, just like I come over to here and see shape shifting. Turn over across here as we take all of these. So yeah, I can sort of see how this could have a 5 by 5 by 3 type modality to it, in which case maybe I'll have something of a floppy parity. This can move up here. So it shapeshifts in all directions. Although the characteristics, I don't know, will completely hold because of the fact that you combine these two sides with one 90-degree flip, but these sides don't really intersect quite directly. I'd have to do a couple of moves in order to make them intersect, in which case it can. So maybe that's how I should look at it. But I'm not so sure. I think maybe this whole strategy would be more like this. This I cube. This is a 5 by 5 by 1, 2, 3, 4. A 5 by 5 by 4 I cube, where you come across here and you come up across there. So this looks a little bit like that. This may be more similar to it because I'm having a lot of sides. The sides that's just across from this is actually not a side that is brought down. It's not a side that's been sliced down. So maybe it's more like an I cube as opposed to a floppy. As this retains its shape, this doesn't, and this doesn't. So maybe it's like that, but it can't be exactly like that either, because in this I only have one side that's been cut down. Well, I can try GR's version and say, well, maybe it's like this then, because I have two that are chopped down and eventually they come across each other in a way that this doesn't. Maybe it's like this 3 by 4 by 5 floppy I cube extreme. The floppy I cube extreme, so too, just as this has two edges that are sliced down, sides that are sliced down rather, this is sliced down and this is sliced down. So because of that, they do encounter each other. So I can move it up here. However, it couldn't be exactly like that because these only encounter each other after doing a series of movements. Unfortunately, you can see I've been using this a lot, so his signature is starting to come undone a little bit there, but that's okay. Now I'll tell you that this is far more difficult than any of these two. This one just has a little bit of a parity with it that is a little tricky to get around. This one you just have to coordinate two sides together. I have to coordinate the top and the second side over here. Actually, the way I solve it is I solve it like this. So I have to coordinate these two sides together. This one has a lot of trickiness to it, and this was far more difficult. So which one is this more going to be like? What do you think? More like a 3 by 3 by 5, which resembles it in its gigamoid structure? Is it more like a 5 by 5 by 4 I cube because it has one that's sliced down and is juxtaposed on a normal side, like these are? Or more like the 3 by 4 by 5 I cube extreme because we have two sides that are sliced down that sometimes encounter each other, just like this is two sides? Or is it something completely unique? Well, that is a good question. So I'll tell you that the service was excellent with this puzzle. Nathan kept me very well up to date in terms of the build of this, and actually put this together in a surprisingly quick period of time. So he is definitely a puzzle builder of the highest degree, and my question is, do I just bite the bullet and scramble it? And the answer is sure. Now, what's the best way of scrambling this guy? Well, I'll start off by doing turns that don't shapeshift so that I can just kind of get it in the mood. I guess that's all I can do before starting to shapeshift. And I want to make sure that when I shapeshift it, I've still retained some of the non-bandaged functionality. So if I turn this here, then I can maybe shapeshift this around over here, come across here, maybe move this in like so. And I think I'm committing myself to the scramble of this puzzle. Now my first scramble might not be the best, just because I still might need to work my way around. So you can see I'm combining different bandage sides together. But now I think I'm pretty committed to what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to scramble it. I mean, maybe there's a better way of doing it. But because this is a first scramble, if I didn't enhance the challenge as much, maybe that's okay. Maybe I just need to... So to those who are thinking of getting this puzzle and wonder what it looks like, first off, get it because the movement is really good. You can see that I've kind of retained a 4x4 type, a 2x2 kind of look to this. Maybe I can adjust this around a little bit to scramble. There we go. So I can scramble this out. What's fun about this is even the process of scrambling it is a little bit of a challenge. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to tease out sides here. The center is preventing this from... Aha! Oh-ho! So I've got this buried in here. Alright. So like I say, you can see that I could probably have scrambled it a little bit more, and actually I'll probably end up doing that, but this looks really, really cool. This is really good. This was an idea, thought about. Now, I'm thinking about the strategy as well, and I'm thinking maybe there should be like an AI type strategy. I've never shown a demonstration of solving a Megaminx or Gigaminx as an AI puzzle, or Master Killaminx as an AI. I've done it before, I haven't demonstrated it. It's actually a fun alternative solve. Something's locking this up, it's this. Maybe I can move another center in here, or move this out like this. No, I've got a lot of centers I got to deal with. Okay, so this gives you a little bit of a taste of what it looks like scrambled. And it's one of those puzzles that looks like just a mess when it's scrambled because of all the shape shifting. Okay. Now I'll tell you that I look at what I can reliably scramble without any bandaging at all. There we go. Haha! Oh, very nice. And that's going to be, I can do middle moves, so I know that my baseline solve is going to be a Megaminx. And I think as I do the solve, I'm going to start to correlate it with every one of these puzzles here. So, alright, that's pretty good. You can see there's more that I could possibly do, and there's more that I can work out regarding the scramble. But I think that's pretty good right now. So there it is, for the first time, a scrambled Gigamoid, designed, created, thought of, and eventually modded and made by master builder Nathan Wilson. I'm always happy to discover new talent that's out there, and Nathan is definitely a talent, and I very much appreciate his expertise, and we'll see what kind of a fun challenge this is. Done! So, the Gigamoid has been conquered, has been solved. So the solving experience was very enjoyable. The puzzle was very playable, easy to move, never popped, never locked up. Now the solve strategy that I used, I did it by reduction from a 5x5, well, from a Gigaminx to a Megaminx, but I didn't reduce it in exactly the same way. In other words, I didn't reduce all the centers. I basically did an alternative reduction. So really, in that way, the solve strategy of this was exactly the same as the solve strategy of this. It really was no different if I do it in that strategy. Now, the classic reduction that you might be thinking of reducing all these centers, then reducing these edges and solving it like a Megaminx, couldn't be done with this. Reducing all of these centers and these edges would be impossible, or at least very difficult, because of the bandaging. So instead, I reduced it to an alternative 3x3, an alternative Megaminx reduction, where the corners are placed like this and the edges are placed. I came upon a similar way of doing things when I was looking at GR Cube's methodology of solving this. And when I told him that I used kind of a alternative reduction using an AI method, he actually referred to it as maybe a missing key to join all the different solve strategies together. And I have to agree with that ultimately when it comes to bandaging, the alternative reduction, which is also the same concept as a parity-free reduction, where you're reducing corners and edges as opposed to centers and edges, that will eliminate the bandaging problem, and that's how I did it with this. So really the solve experience is exactly the same, except for the fact that it's much more enjoyable based on the playability of the puzzle. Very nice addition to the collection. So it makes me wonder about the use of making this out of master Kilominx, because then what you do is you reduce the master Kilominx to a Kilominx. And I invite you to try to do that, by the way. It's a very fun reduction. It's basically like an AI of a dodecahedron, but it would be the same kind of thing, and you would literally have to do the parity-free solve. When you do a Kilominx, normally you do a master Kilominx to a Megaminx and solve it that way. Instead, you can do it from a master Kilominx to a Kilominx. Anyway, so it's another way of doing it, but once again, worthy addition to the collection. Great modification. I feel very honored to be living in an age where I'm surrounded by so many really talented mods. So go ahead and check out Nathan Wilson's site. Give him some views, give him some love, and more importantly, give him some business. Thanks for watching.